at school, we used to have to do cross country running, and it was all sort of through the
Oh, I
field
can't.
of Essex, and I just hated it. And I used to come last in that most days. And then they would have an annual sort of school championship race for cross country, and I decided on that day that I was going to take it seriously, and I was running my heart
Oh
out,
my
and I
God.
passed all sorts of different people. I was thinking, God, I'm going to get in the top 10. Bear in mind there are about probably 250 boys running in this, and I crossed the finishing line. And I was so proud of myself, thinking I must have come in the top 10. 48.
Still,
I've got to
That's
add to
out of how
that.
many? Out of how many though?
like out of
Yeah.
250.
250.
Oh,
250. Okay, that's not
that's a
bad.
good
That's not
That's
story.
bad.
really
That's
good.
a happy ending
VM,
because
what about yours?
yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, do you know what? I'm trying to think. I mean, you're talking about like sports or something, aren't you? I haven't done
Anything you've
sports.
ever come last in, even a comedy competition.
Oh, no, never.
Quite clearly.
Last. I tell you, I didn't come last, but I remember getting to the final of the Daily Telegraph comedy competition, which was a huge comedy competition up until about,
Oh, yeah.
Julian, tell me when, 03,
Oh,
04,
something like that. When
Something
I
like that.
started with
Anyway,
you, yeah.
yeah, so I remember and the way that they did it was obviously incredibly fair, where all of us newbies would do a gig throughout the year between September and maybe June in random places, and then they'd announce the finalists in June as if they'd been to all of our gigs, when in reality what they were doing was seeing who had risen to the top over the year, who were the new young ones that they were talking about, and then they picked the top 10 and put them in the final. And so I remember getting announced for that and being so excited, and then on the day in the morning they post the lineup of the final, and then you would come back later in the afternoon and do the final. And Sajila, I went up in the morning with who is now my husband, and I was first on the list, which essentially in comedy means nobody running this competition wants you to win this. Nobody. We would like you to.
Song
Yeah,
contest.
we'd like you to go on first, please, and be quickly forgotten by the end of the.
Yeah.
By the time the judges are talking about it, after an interval and 9 other acts, we'd like you to please quietly go home. I cried so much between seeing the list and doing the show, knowing that I wasn't in with a shot.
And now I can understand that, because if you going on first at the best of times is not great. Going on first in a competition, forget it. You fucking lost.
No,
You've
no.
lost so big time. I'm with Ian. It was 1,500 meters at school race. Had a hole in my plimsoll. Got like a stone through my plimsoll. What you guys call sneakers and trainers.
but
We
then
had
lower your expectation.
Yeah, like plimsolls were like the early, again behind America. Plimsolls were mine black with a little less elasticated bit, and I was hobbling my way right to the end, and everybody just like crossed the finishing line, and I don't know, something just kept me going. I was really hobbling, really slow. Came in 10 minutes after everybody else, to everybody booing at me. It was really horrible. Everyone's booing. Oh God, she's so crap. But I learned a very valuable lesson from that, because I was really proud of myself that I'd actually got to the end, even with this. And it taught me to not seek approval from others, which has been great in comedy, and to self-motivate myself. And basically, I only compete with my own personal best, not with everybody else, which means it doesn't matter if I'm last. Fuck them.
And you see the difference in our ages here, Sajila, is if that had happened to me when I was at school and I'd come last, the teacher would have taken off my plimsolls and beaten me with it.
Oh.
The slipper. You would have got the slipper. Okay, quick, guys, because you have joined us. Let me just ask you quickly anything that you remember being last in.
What about me?
Do you want to ask?
No, I was just going to say that if this question, if Ian hadn't said what he said, I don't know what I would have done in terms of answering, but you just hit the nail on the head. I was the cross-country runner that lagged behind the entire race. It was me and a guy called Alan, who's about twice the size of me, and I was fairly chunky myself in those days. And we were always at the back. Yeah, well, the camera adds £10. The jogging this morning was clearly wasted. But yeah, we would always lag behind, and the cross-country race was just the most. I mean, I don't mind a short sprint, I have to say, even in those days. But the cross-country run was just painful,
purgatory.
And it was actually so bad on one occasion that when we got back, one of the other PE teachers rushed in and said, "I've just spent an hour looking for you." And of course,